Well, what happened last year? There was a virus, and every fucking thing everywhere caught on fire.
Yeah.
And it's fire season once again. Like, it's an extremely tragic thing that happened, no doubt about it. Like
Oh, no, no doubt.
anytime that happens, and that's horrible. And I don't have anything to offer the families monetarily, but it's a tragic thing that I can only relate as much as I can. I do have questions, and I don't have the questions that like everyone else has about this fucking energy weapon and blah blah blah, and forget
Bullshit.
forget the fact that we basically created Hawaii as a tourism and military base. Besides all that shit, um, so it's an island, right? There's
There's
like
many islands.
in the middle of the fucking ocean. It's
Middle
one
of
of
the
the
Pacific Ocean.
and you don't have much to do there because it's an island. And you have other islands, so you would figure that any situation, like any extreme situation, you would have enough time to get a system down that will be nailed down to perfection. And it's just kind of like how there's this meme on the right, like, let's all go to trade school and become plumbers and electricians and make a lot
Yeah.
of money. And really what that turns into is like, great, nothing will ever break ever again. But like, we don't have a doctor. But I feel like how, like this thing with Hawaii, it's like you have you have enough people who can join these fire departments who should have a process to put out fires that's really really good. You should have enough time to do that. And oh yeah, you're surrounded by the fucking water. And I don't know if is there anything saying you can't put out a fire with ocean water? I don't think there's a
The
lack
only,
of water.
the only thing I've heard is that it's tough to keep the the the, the fittings for the fire prevention system from rusting because of the ocean, salt water. I'm thinking, well, why can't you just make them out of plastic,
Yeah.
out of non-corrosive materials?
Okay, so the airport in your neck in the woods, they have an area of a reservoir of water. If shit goes down specifically for the airport, there's enough helicopters nearby at other bases and emergency equipment that can go help that. Okay, let's say an entire island is on fire that's surrounded by the ocean. There's multiple other islands right next to this island, also surrounded by the ocean. Was there like a weather storm or windy? Is there
there
a
was
reason
a there was a there was
go?
there was a there was a hurricane or a typhoon that was
Right.
100 miles away from them, but they were getting residual wind from it.
So you can't
Again,
use
something
helicopter.
that's never happened before.
Right. Can you use a helicopter in that situation or no?
I don't know. I'm not I don't know anything enough about helicopters that maybe the wind was too high that a helicopter couldn't fly.
I just like it's a horrible thing, but it's just I can't.
Well,
Why don't you have something down? You know what I mean? Like
they did have something down, and apparently
communications completely failed.
The person in charge of water for the island of Maui, because
that's in the ocean,
but fresh water.
Right.
You can't water your plants with salt water. Okay.
I mean, you can't still put out a fire, right?
But you can't water your sugar cane with salt water.
Okay.
Right. So the question had come up is, should we release the water that our farmers, that is our cash crop for the island, are using to continue to grow their sugar cane, or should we not release it? Well, they waited 4 hours and let this fire get completely out of control to the point where even once they released it, there was no way to put it out. There was that much going on. And someone brought up, you brought up the thing about what about fireboats and stuff like that. They'll only reach about 50 to 75 yards from the ocean into shore. It wasn't enough. right? So you can't like sit offshore and shoot water like 900 feet.
Well, I mean, there
Yeah.
isn't a shortage of water. Was kind of my point.
Oh God, no! There's no shortage of water. You're an island.
Right.
I mean, it's there, you know. Yeah. But it was so bad that the friggin' boats that were in the water were starting on fire.
Yeah. So massive spread seems to be the biggest.
It was the wind. It was the wind, basically.
It was a perfect storm, so to speak.
It was the perfect storm. It was the wind. It blew in the wrong direction for what was happening, and there's nothing they could do. And it happened so fast that people couldn't even get out of their houses. All of a sudden, it's 18 blocks away, and then 20 seconds later, it's next door.
Yeah.
What do? You can't even run. So everybody went to their basements to, just this is what they're speculating is they all went downstairs if they had basements, and a lot of those places don't have basements.
Yeah.
And so a lot of them suffocated because once the fire's going over, there's no oxygen.
Not something I'd ever recommend.
No.
For a hurricane or a tornado, maybe, but not.
Well, and there's places in the United States that are hurricane proof that don't have basements.
Yeah.
They might have a shelter that they can go to, but and then they had people jumping in the ocean to save themselves. I'm like thinking, oh, that's a great idea. But if the oxygen is still being depleted by the fire, coming up to take another breath, there's nothing to breathe.
Yeah.
So it's actually worse. So I mean, it was the perfect bad storm of stuff that happened. And, they tried to politicize this, and there's nothing political about it. And there's no conspiracy about, they had fire machines that were, they wanted to burn the city down because, the big corporate governments wanted to come in and buy up all this land in Lahaina because it's like the idyllic, place that they could put a new resort in. And,
something about Oprah.
Of course, Oprah had to get in the news. I mean, and what's his name from Amazon?
Do we have a start to the fire? Do we know when it started?
It was probably a storm, probably lightning. Mm-hmm. But what's his name from Bezos from Amazon? Yeah, he immediately Bezos came out and said, "I'm just going to give I don't know how many millions, $100 million to Maui and the residents for recovery." And we haven't heard another word from him since. Nobody's seen the money yet either. You can come out and say that all you want. It doesn't mean you have to give it to him.
Right.
Even though he owns, I don't know, 700,000 acres or something like that of Maui. So plus, I mean, the island. These guys aren't unaware of fire. It's a volcanic island. I don't know when the last volcano erupted on Maui, but it has happened in my lifetime. Yeah. So there is fire, So I don't know. It's just a bad situation, and the governor of Hawaii has said, "I'm not going to allow big corporations to come in and land grab." And
well, I mean, given Hawaii's history with the government, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, from kingdom
and it's not even out yet. The fire's still burning, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like I went through it. It's out now. No, it's still burning. It's not burning where anybody is anymore because there's no towns. But, and every year, once they get done harvesting sugarcane, they burn the sugarcane fields anyways. That's what they do. That nutrient goes back into the earth. And so, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a horrific situation.
Just that picture right there is horrible looking.
Yeah, I mean this one where they're like literally on the rocks next to the ocean getting smoked out.
Yeah,
because it's not like a plane's gonna leave. So I mean, my issue with it isn't like, oh, here's all the different conspiracies.
Yeah.
Like if something pops up down the line, we'll look into it when time allows. But my issue is like, you're on an island and just the infrastructure in America in general. Just like um, we should have like situations like this locked down right when they happen with an order of operations and things to do.
But no one ever thought this could happen in this degree of disaster.
That's a good point. I mean, you probably have plans for a hurricane. You probably have plans for a fire. You probably don't have plans for a
This
hurricane that creates a fire that turns into this during the
turns
hurricane.
into correct.
Yeah.
You can't plan for that.
Yeah.
It was just the wind blowing in the absolute wrong direction for this. The fire happening at this point. Other people, dragging their feet on deciding whether they should put it out right away. Because it didn't immediately start burning Lahaina. It was burning in the fields prior to.
These are the areas that structures that were damaged
Jesus,
that are in yellow.
It's
But
unbelievable.
I'll say one thing that I think that can come out of this is like the only proactive, and it's not a fucking great topic to give advice on, but
No,
the only thing that I think I could put out there is, if there is any situation where whatever the number one threat is in your area, make sure that you have communications in order in the event that there is an issue with communications, that power being turned off or whatever. Figure that out with you and your people, and have your handful of plans, because really that seems to be a big issue. That because like when the shit's going down, there's only so much you can do, and you have to get yourself out. But one thing that I have heard numerous times is there was a communications issue all over the place. So
there's only one road into this town and one road out.
yeah, and I guess like a lot of kids were in school or something like that, so you have to figure out.
So people literally died in their cars trying to escape.
Yeah,
so it's like, and those are the ones they found immediately. They have, but it's just sad. And I mean, like you said, you can't plan for everything,
right.
But could things have been different? Sure, you can. Anybody can Monday morning quarterback and go, yeah, they should have done this and this and this, but they didn't. A lot of people died.
Yeah.
Is there going to be a change in how they deal with it later? You can only do so much.
Right. And it's like, if you're not part of the government, if you're not part of the fire teams, if you're not part of any of that or emergency response, then it's like, that's why I brought up is like communications, you and your family, and some kind of strategy for at least surviving while you're there. And I mean, that goes to anyone in Tornado Alley, that goes to anyone where hurricanes happen, that goes to anyone where wildfires happen, that goes to anyone, anywhere, especially dissidents, no less. So tragic, sad.
Sad.
You can tell us how
know anybody there.
You can tell us about how your
relatives, but
you can tell us about how we're shills about not talking about your conspiracy theory in the comments.